Another round of crucial decisions being made in the sports world. The Ivy League canceled its men's and women's basketball tournaments because of concerns about the spread of coronavirus.
The NCAA has made an unprecedented move, announcing that the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments will be played without fans in attendance.
The NCAA has no other choice but to be a responsible global citizen here.
Cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. What does this remind you of? Things were all going as planned for the 2021-22 college basketball season until the unthinkable happened again. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk about games being canceled all across the nation and just the COVID-19 Omicron variant impacting just not college basketball, but sports across the entire nation. I wanted to talk to you guys about your opinion in this matter, and I wanted to hear what your thoughts and feelings were of it. So let me know down in the comments what you guys are thinking about sports just going forward and how we are going to deal with this entire virus. And we're going to talk about a little bit in this video what the future of college basketball is going to look like the rest of the season. So just in the college basketball world, we saw games all across the nation so far get canceled, and it started towards the end of November, went all the way towards the beginning of December. And like right now in the thick of December, we're getting towards January now with the new year coming up. But over 125 games have been canceled. 100 teams are dealing with cancellations and postponements. Teams are going to have to quarantine. I mean, even last night I watched Seton Hall play, and they had half the roster had to sit out because of COVID-19 protocols, and they had guys who had to play who have had no experience play at all. These are talking about walk-on guys who have barely played any significant college basketball minutes. And at least for the school I go to Penn State, for those of you that don't know, and the Penn State men's basketball team has been dealing with the same issue. Their last game coming against Michigan State, I believe all the way back in December 11th, they've had I think it's 3 games canceled now. They're supposed to play Quinnipiac, Delaware State, and VCU. All 3 of those games canceled. So you're telling me your last game wasn't in December 11th against Michigan State, and now your next game is going to come against Indiana January 2nd. That's almost a month, and you're getting right into Big Ten play without playing for a couple of weeks. So they're one of the teams across the nation who are really going to have to struggle going right into a tough conference matchup. It's kind of a thing we're going to see the entire nation where there's teams who haven't played and they're just out of nowhere going to be put into a tough matchup and going to have to deal with it, kind of like how it was last year. Coming into the season, we thought things were going to be back to normal. Fans are finally able to attend the games. The games seem to be back to normal. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I was just to watch games again with fans, and the atmosphere has just been unreal for at least the games I've been to, and just watching games on TV. I remember watching the Duke and Gonzaga matchup, and just wow, it felt like a March Madness matchup. You had an electric crowd out in Vegas. I think they need to do more games out there. It was an unreal environment just for the people that were there, and just watching the game, you could tell people were hyped up about Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren. Just felt like almost a Final Four or potential championship game. And to think that things are finally back to normal, or we're finally back to normal, and felt like it in almost 2 years now, it's wow, I'm really excited for March Madness this year. But now with this coming up and with more games being canceled and the Omicron variant being more significant across the nation now, I'm getting a little worried about where the rest of the season is going to go, and the possibility of games being back to where there's no fans watching the games and back to the atmosphere we saw last year. To think that we haven't had a normal March Madness game dating all the way back to Virginia and Texas Tech in 2019 championship games, crazy. And just the idea of actually having it back to normal for the 2022 March Madness is hopeful. But now with so many teams going through this, it's just tough to say if it's actually going to happen. And there's a lot of questions arising whether or not we're actually going to be able to have March Madness. Now, with that being said, let's go to what the NCAA was talking about in March Madness in general. They released a statement. So looking here, they said that the NCAA men's and women's tournaments are scheduled to go as planned in March and early April at the selected sites. And just going on through what they're saying at this point, we are continuing the planning for the NCAA basketball championships with the normal format, schedule, and multiple host sites. So it looks like they're still monitoring COVID-19 and the spikes in general. They're going to make adjustments for the health and safety protocols just to ensure everyone's safety. Going to continue to do testing, and going back to the CDC, they now changed it to only a 5-day quarantine period, which is nice because last year we would see teams not play, like I was saying earlier in this video, where they would go on for weeks and weeks of not playing, and all of a sudden you're jumped into a tough matchup and you're not really prepared for it. It's almost like you're going in, you're getting thrown a loss right away. But now with this 5-day quarantine period, it's a little nicer because not only are you going to have maybe only a couple guys out, they're only going to be out for a brief amount of time, maybe like for a short injury with some people that could be having that, almost like the same issue. Just the short quarantine is really going to be beneficial for teams who have, you know, tough matchups in a really hard conference like the SEC, Big East, Big Ten, any Power 5 conference that is insane. You're going to have a tough matchup every night. So I think that's promising that there's only a 5-day quarantine period now. Another thing that they're saying is, according to the CDC, I got this tweet from John Rothstein. If you are fully vaccinated with a booster shot, you only have a 0.00048% chance of getting the virus, which is a huge incentive for all players and coaches to get the vaccine and the booster, just so that way they can limit the possibility of getting COVID-19 inside their program, or even like doing to the cancellations of potential games. I mean, just looking, like going to ESPN, like last night felt like the first normal night we had in like a week or two, because games were awesome. Watching games, I've watched so many great games already this year. I'm sure many of you have too. But looking at the past like week or two of games, it's been pretty poor in terms of competition and games just being played because of these cancellations. And last night felt like the first normal night we've had in a little bit. You had some great games being played. You had that Seton Hall and Providence game I was referring to earlier, looking at some other games. The Auburn-LSU game, another solid SEC matchup. You had the Tennessee-Alabama game. Tennessee played without 2 players due to COVID-19 protocols, still put up a huge fight. And honestly, if they would have had them, maybe even beat Alabama on the road. Kentucky dominated Missouri, but you had several great games on last night. You had the Butler-DePaul game was another great game. This is December 30th, and December 29th, and I'm talking about these games. But it was like the first day in almost a week. Like, look at Tuesday and Monday. You only had like a few games played. No games even being played on Sunday. It was the day after Christmas. You only had 3 games being played. Only 2 games being played on Christmas Day. 2 of those games were canceled. But if you go on the ESPN app and just look and scroll down on the bottom, there are so many games getting canceled. I mean, today I'm recording this video on December 30th. And just looking at all the games canceled, there are so many of them. You got UC Davis, Hawaii, Colorado, Oregon. Just like look at all these games. And not only is it just like these smaller games that aren't necessarily televised on national TV, you have Arizona, UCLA. That's a top 10 matchup in the Pac-12 that was postponed. You have Gonzaga's game that got postponed. A lot of people obviously know Gonzaga, one of the top teams in the nation. So several top 25 teams getting their games canceled because of COVID-19, and would have been like a full slate of games tonight. And that's just frustrating to see all these games getting canceled. And they're hopeful that they can resume them, or at least postpone them to a later time, so that way they can at least play these tough matchups and get them onto their schedules rather than just canceling them for good, and in examples like last year where they couldn't even reschedule them. So with that being said, that will basically conclude everything I kind of wanted to talk about in today's video. As I said, just leave a comment down below what you're thinking of how this college basketball season is going to go the rest of the year. Fingers crossed that we can still have March Madness, and hopeful that all these teams can stay healthy and go through all the protocols that they're going through just to ensure the safety of everyone playing. But to end this video, kind of alluding back to John Rothstein, just stay positive, test negative, and be hopeful that the college basketball season can go as it was intended to go at the beginning of this year, and that players can stay healthy and still get the experience of college basketball with fans coming in, hyping up their teammates and their peers, and just having the environment that we had a couple years back, even with COVID-19 still an impact in our nation. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was my first video in a long time. Going to 2022, I should have more free time in my schedule this semester at school. So fingers crossed. I'm very hopeful that I can get more content out to you guys. I'm going to do more stuff on campus, around campus, interacting with students and staff, and I'm going to really try to be more creative with the content, and I'm hopeful for a great year in 2022. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe for more college basketball, Penn State content here, and we'll see you next time on the channel.